Hey guys, welcome to Punky's Pro Wrestling. There we go. Okay. Wow, do we have a lot to unpack? I'm gonna unpack the matches first, then some of the shocks and controversies and things at the end. Well, they certainly are allowing blood now. So, we had Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn. Trick Williams is the new United States champion. It was a very so-so match. It was very... It didn't tell much of a story, and it just wasn't very good. The Demon, Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio in what became a street fight. It certainly wasn't a technical match, but it was a really good match. Good psychology. Dom is growing into himself as a performer. His dad must be proud. He really is growing into himself as a performer. You know, for a long time, he was, as Dusty Rhodes used to say, a puppy with big paws. Now he's growing into those paws. So, there we go. And it's looking real good. Future's so bright, he got to wear shades. I never talk like that, but I couldn't think of, I just thought it would be funny, I guess. Guts is not even a word, but anyway, like I said, I just thought it would be funny. It was fast paced. They left it all out there in that match. Jade versus Rhea. Rhea won the title. Io Sky saved her from Jade's minions. But overall, a great match. It was basically one-on-one through most of it. It was high impact, hard fought. Exactly the kind of match you'd expect the women to deliver. And Punk versus Reigns. This was an old school hold for hold match that could have main evented anywhere 40 years ago with blood, and it just was the kind of wrestling that I grew up on. Hold for hold, little blood, not overly graphic. Although some of the matches I grew up with were. And just tough, left it all out there. 5 stars, just incredible. The psychology was off the charts. That alone was 5 stars. Like an 80s NWA match. It was a throwback for sure. Reigns won and is the new champion. Okay, now let me give you some of the highlights, non-wrestling highlights, then I'll go into the shockers. The attendance was 55,255 for night 2, with a total of 106,007. No, 70-something. I forgot to write the last number down. I'm an idiot. So Miz came out when Cena was doing his hosting duties. It said he wanted his Wrestlemania moment. And so And he came out with this guy. I don't know who this guy was. And so Danhausen came out and hit Mrs. Companion in the jewels, and then actually grabbed them, and then he grabbed Miz by the jewels and beat him up. Okay, now to the controversies and the shockers. Controversy was over how the legacy inductions were done. And I have to agree with it. Sid Judy's son, Gunner, was so upset because his father got a 47-second video and they were on screen from the audience for maybe 20 seconds. And they had a real opportunity because Sid's not well liked in the business, and that's probably why even as a world champion he didn't get a regular induction. Sadly. Although a lot of people think it's because TKO doesn't want to recognize the dead wrestlers. Well, Sid didn't die of anything controversial. Died of a heart attack because he was a huge, tall man, and his heart had to beat for all that. But the average human being isn't supposed to be 6'9", So he didn't take his own life. He didn't die of an overdose or anything like that. So what's the problem? He had a wife, sons, and a family. And one thing that they could have done to redeem him in the eyes of the fans who thought he was too rough and the wrestlers who thought he was too rough was to let them speak, because there was a young man with them. I think he has dwarfism, but he also has Down syndrome. What a combination. Anyway, that Sid apparently made his manager in WCW because he was Sid's neighbor, and they became friends and bonded over their mutual love of wrestling. And Sid had this big heart and really took him under his wing and really let him experience the world of wrestling, that he might not have otherwise gotten to experience, especially as a disabled young man. And I think that would have made people see Sid in a different light. And yes, they mentioned it. No. No, they didn't. They never mentioned it even in his video package. Like I said, I think it could have helped redeem Sid's reputation a little bit. And they were talking about last year's inductions. They did the same thing. At least one of the legacy inductions last year was on stage. They were right about one thing, and this was on Stevie Richards' YouTube podcast, as well as his partner has his own. And his partner talked about it as well. And they were talking about the fact that Gunner said there was some jealousy of Sid, and maybe there was. Because he was a big guy, he was kind of pushed, And a lot of wrestlers have said over the years that Sid was not. Sid was rough to work with. His power bombs were vicious. I think he got thrown in with the wolves and wasn't given as much training because he was a big guy and they wanted him in there and they wanted him to be a star. So he never had like the best training, the most comprehensive, I should say, training. So because they wanted him in the ring so fast. And that cost opponents over time through no fault of his own because they wanted him in there so damn fast. This is just my opinion, and I think that's where people have a lot of problem. And that's who the young man doing the poses was the young man, his neighbor. I'm so glad that they included him. But I couldn't figure out who the heck he was because they never said anything in the video or anything. It wasn't until I was watching the video on YouTube that I found out about it. But they were on stage last year. Or at least one of them was. The legacy inductees. The family. So I don't understand, but. And ESPN is still having problems. The whole thing was effed up again. Every time they went to, well, not every time this time, but when they went to commercials a lot of the time, they would come back. And guess what? The match that was on before the commercial would restart. They have issues that they need to deal with. I don't pay $30 a month for this crapola. So anyway, don't get me wrong, that's still less than I would have paid, way less than I would have paid on pay-per-view for 2 nights of Wrestlemania. Although the Hall of Fame would have been free. Back in those days. And they did do it on a stage, like I said, the Hall of Fame and stuff. So Bad News Brown's family got even less screen time. At least they mentioned the Bad News Brown was an Olympic medalist. Now, the shock of the night came on the pre-show when, after a defeat by Obafemi, Brock Lesnar took off his boots, took off his MMA gloves, cried, walked out of the ring, walked up to Paul Heyman, who was also sobbing, hugged him. They both cried. He touched hands with fans along the walkway, and they were all chanting, "Thank you, Brock." Did we just witness Brock Lesnar retire and actually pass the torch? That's mind-blowing to me. Did we actually just witness that? So, time will tell, but that's what it looks like. Maybe he felt it was time to step down because his daughter's coming in. I don't know. I will give him all the credit in the world for doing the job for Obafemi and, putting him over and, as, what is his name? Maven said, he went out the right way. I have to give Brock Lesnar credit for that. And I don't give him credit for much. and I shouldn't blame him that he got too much too soon, but I also always thought he had an attitude. You know. So I've always had an attitude about him because I didn't think he paid his dues in the beginning. He came in and within months was a world champion. I'm like, dues, pay, maybe, you know, because I'm old school. So that was my problem. And then I thought he developed attitude over time. So, if he is retired, next year will be Cena and 28 will be Lesnar as the headliner for the Hall of Fame. Guaranteed. So, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you later in the week, actually, because I do have a couple of other videos I want to do on the channel. So check those out. I'm going to give you an idea of who I would like to see on Dark Side of the Ring. And also an idea for future Hall of Famers. And real quick, what the legacy was supposed to be was older wrestlers, much older ones, that most of the people watching have never heard of. And so they can't give them a full induction because people won't know who they are. You know what I mean? So I commented on the legacy inductions last year on how I liked that the families were on stage. But a lot of people are saying that TKO doesn't want to deal with or put a spotlight on death. So they're doing legacy inductions for those who are dead, which is dumb. Evidently, the first few that they did, they never even told the families because all they did was show a video package and show pictures of several wrestlers from the 50s that most of the people watching wrestling today have no clue who they are. Unless you're me, who's been obsessed with wrestling for over 40 years. You know, I've been obsessed with wrestling for 45 or so years. I know who these people from the 50s and 60s are. And chances are there's no contact information for family and stuff like that. It's not like they have a genealogist behind the scenes, you know. So that's why they did legacy inductions. It confused me as to why Bad News Brown and Sid were getting legacy inductions because they're modern stars, if you will, and have family that can, you know, I don't know. I have jammered on for 20 minutes, guys, but this was important. So, God bless you. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Be nice. Um, and I will see you later in the week. Please subscribe. Thank you so much.